Surrender is by far one of the most difficult and complex conscious skills to master. Even though, paradoxically, in theory, it's the easiest thing that you can possibly do. Because to surrender is to assume the perspective of the divine flow, to make life exceptionally smooth and uncomplicated for yourself by demystifying what you should be doing, what you want to do, and what you feel capable of doing, as you allow yourself to surrender all limitations, shortcomings, distress, tension, and feelings of resistance so that you can entertain the most divinely aligned flow state. That is the sheer state of surrender. But when it comes to what people think surrender is, that's where we encounter a myriad of different challenges. What most people think surrender is, through the lens of their ego, is actually the recipe for disaster. It's the kind of surrender that's utilized as an escape route to avoid dealing with the need to integrate karma. It's the surrender that's chosen to pacify negative emotions. Surrender that's used as a convenient way out of everything that you don't want to experience because you simply resort to the need to surrender in order to let go of all of those complexities that actually beg for your deeper understanding. If we understood surrender as the ultimate destination, meaning the goal with surrender is to understand everything that has been preventing you from surrendering, you would be much more easily able to tackle the challenges that the need to surrender present. And all those challenges have to do with everything that your subconscious has been creating to pinpoint where you find it difficult to surrender to your true self. When we think about surrender, what we really need to be thinking about is not what we have to do to entertain a state of surrender, but what things, what experiences, what feelings we need to surrender or let go of in order to facilitate that flow state, in order to reduce the interception between the ego and the higher self, to accommodate the frequency of everything that is indicative of our authenticity and our true essence. If we allow ourselves to surrender everything that is blocking us from a state of divine flow, we would be much more easily capable of maintaining a surrendered state in our reality. But alas, if you feel like surrender is something that is difficult for you to achieve, it's because you are constantly holding some internal contradictions that keep you away from your higher self. And that higher identity is etching in every moment the opportunities that you have to surrender some false parts of you, some parts of your shadow, some limitations, or other egoic blind spots that are inhibiting you from maintaining a surrendered state in your consciousness. But in order to understand what that surrendered state entails, we first need to understand the difference between the distortions of the lower self and that exalted state of the surrendered energy that exists in the higher dimensional playing field. To understand surrender, we need to grasp that whatever we currently feel conflicted with is preventing us from surrendering to that higher octave of our own consciousness. And why is it so difficult to surrender to? Well, if we were to confront every single aspect of our reality that requires us to make a certain choice or a decision, to confront our deeply conflicted feelings and understand what we really need to surrender as part of our false identity to accommodate the true state of who we are at our core, we would be able to surrender all that is preventing us from grasping the core of our truth. Why surrender is so difficult is because most of us are not taught to surrender. We're taught to live our lives in a constant state of control, even defiantly holding on to certain ideals, visions, dreams, desires, and objectives through the egoic lens of what we think we need to do, be, and achieve in order to prove our sense of self, as opposed to simply surrendering to what we know and feel deep down. And that's something that is always leading to a very contradictory state within our own energetic body. Whenever you feel that you need to express something to meet the demands of life, other people, or any other situational circumstances, rather than showing up based on the integrity and the resolute connection to what you feel and know deep down, you are compromising on the natural choice that you have to surrender. To surrender is to not pick sides in a situation where your truth is called for. It's to choose to allow the truth to reign supreme, meaning you choose to let yourself show up in a surrendered fashion because you own that integrity deep down. What surrender requires us to feel into is the core of that dissonance that lives within us and why we have been distorting ourselves from our own truth in the first place. If there is, first of all, any resistance that you feel between you and your own feeling state, then you are going to find it impossible to surrender. And whatever you think you need to do to surrender superficially is just going to be a cover-up. If you think surrender is about distracting yourself from that deeper discomfort that you feel in your energetic, emotional, or mental bodies of consciousness, then surrender to you is an escape route. It's an ability to exit from anything uncomfortable, which is simply a way of distorting your own distorted state of awareness. It's a way of blocking you from seeing everything that needs to be seen so that you can enter a state of true integration and karmic completion. And so that brings us to the understanding of karma and the role that it really serves in our reality. Karma is anything that you accrue in order to learn the deeper lesson of what you need to do to self-actualize, what you need to master in order to be able to surrender or to live in a less dense state of your inner reality and to experience more neutrality and peace outside of you as well. If there's anything that you're feeling you cannot let go of or you cannot resolve, that is going to feel like a dense part of your own energetic system, which is preventing you from surrender. And so proportional to everything outside of you that is creating tension, nervousness, or resistance is a certain part of you that needs to be understood, and that is what's really calling you to surrender. So the first thing that we need to do to understand how to surrender is to pinpoint what is making it so difficult to surrender, and why is this need even arising? What do we wish we could surrender to alleviate the pain and the discomfort of our experience? What do we need to let go of? Or what are we seeking freedom from that will allow us to feel this ease and this fulfillment that we're really seeking? Ask yourself now, what am I still holding in my emotional, energetic body that is not allowing me to enter a surrendered state of my own consciousness? And what's going to come up are any limiting beliefs, any thoughts, any control mechanisms, or other aspects of your personality that you feel are hindering your state of surrender. Now, when you're encountering all of these things that are coming up into your field, you're really entering a free space of exploration where you are holding a dialogue between you and your own soul. What you're encountering is the space in between the egoic lower self, this avatar which holds everything that you've physically been accruing and experiencing in the physical state of being, and everything that that higher self version of you knows is what you need to experience to be free of all those karmic aspects. Once you start to entertain the possibilities that your higher self makes available to you, you're going to encounter those subtle and profoundly wise truths of everything that it takes to surrender the hold that your ego has on you. And most importantly, what's going to start to arise is the knowing of what's keeping you separate from your higher self. You may realize that you're holding this great deal of stubborn energy, or things that you're using to actually prevent yourself from ascending into that higher frequency, less dense version of yourself. Maybe you know that things in life can be easier and you can allow yourself more genuine joy, more deeper satisfaction, more freedom, more curiosity, more play, more fun, more exploration of everything that it means to be your true self, but you're not allowing yourself to experience those things because there are certain lower level illusions that are blocking you from that state of surrender. What some of these illusions can entail are blockages that put you at odds with the state of love, things that you feel undeserving of experiencing, various aspects emanating from your past that try to convince you that you aren't worthy of even experiencing the sheer state of surrender. For example, if you feel that you're confined to a reality in which you need to prove yourself or constantly be on the edge of defensiveness because you're trying to show people who you are based on what you do or what you achieve rather than how you feel deep down, you're going to be defending your persona and the outward expressions of your personality as opposed to your genuine state of being. If you doubt that a divinely guided flow state is even accessible to you, then it's quite likely that you are constantly used to overcompensating in your energetic output, meaning you are either used to overgiving energy, like people pleasing, constantly doing things for other people, prioritizing their needs over your own in order to get your inherent need of worthiness met, or you're used to usurping others' power in subtle ways to get them to take care of your needs in a more narcissistic fashion, wherein you subtly or less subtly take advantage of other people in order to make yourself feel seen, acknowledged, and secure in reality. If you are used to one or the other tactic, then you are not allowing yourself to even entertain a surrendered state of being because you don't feel that you can surrender and have your needs met at the same time. Because any time that you've ever given up the vital choice to surrender, you have not entrusted in your own consciousness to help you feel secure in reality. If you find it impossible to surrender, then on the deepest level, you find it unsafe to surrender to yourself. You don't feel that you are going to be secure if you allow yourself to take charge of your abilities, your energy, and ultimately your reality. You don't confide in your perspectives, in your emotional truth, and you don't allow yourself to surrender to the intuitive clarity that will arise whenever you choose to surrender. And so another important consideration is, why do you feel threatened by your inherent ability to feel the truth of the current situation when you surrender? Do you even know what it feels like to confide in your own state of faith? If you feel that you must create internal conflict or contradiction in order to control your field from your mind's perspective, then what you're doing deep down is you're blocking yourself off from even aligning with the higher archetype that knows what it takes to align with alignment without needing to control. And that's a very foreign state for many of us to experience. If you don't trust the state of losing control and following your heart and soul into the deepest point of alignment, then what you're used to doing is constantly maintaining a hypervigilance in your nervous system and overall energetic state in order to mitigate the risks that might show up in your reality. You're used to blockading the flow state in order to create a kind of mentalized flow. And what that might be doing is safeguarding the reality that you've already devised from that fearful state. If you are doing things for conditional reasons, meaning you're constantly getting in between your deeper feelings and what you're thinking and acting on and actually expressing to others, then you're hijacking your own state of divine flow. You're choosing, instead of being completely present with yourself, to allow for what wants to arise, to fill your field and to provide the comfort and understanding that you're really looking for, to create artificial means of validation, satisfaction, and security in order to meet yourself on that more egoic level. The ego wants to surrender through conditionality. So when you feel out of alignment, it's going to convince you that in order to surrender, you need to do certain things that should allow you to feel surrender because you're going to be safe and secure. For the ego, surrender is anything that allows for a condition of complacency. If you feel smugly satisfied with where you are because you've checked off all the boxes of what you think you need, that could be material comfort, it could be just having a relationship, just being able to show off how successful, how set you are in life. Meanwhile, not truly experiencing what you're looking for deep down, then surrender is simply going to be the freedom that you give yourself to explore alternatives to genuine joy. When you surrender through the lens of your ego, you are letting yourself be okay even with the state of discontent deep down. You choose to lie to yourself instead of to follow those deeper instincts that are arising that guide you toward full fulfillment. And so when you choose to compromise on what you know is creating dissonance in your inner world, you are creating surrender as a way of controlling yourself into a state of complacency. So what's the alternative then? What if I told you there is an easier, smoother, more loving way that you can find alignment and maintain it in your life by choosing to change your strategy of existence entirely? And to experience that, you first need to surrender your former model of existence. You must surrender your old self and all of its convictions, attachments, conditional desires, beliefs, thoughts, and dogmatic patterns that were instilled in your mind, which really don't even represent the you that you are deep down. If you surrender all that has been conditioning you, limiting you, and causing you to feel conflicted, by filtering out what you are inherently capable of doing when you trust in yourself and choose love, then what's going to arise is a new pattern of living by which what you do is inspired by what you feel. And that's something that creates consistency, transparency, and deeper trust between you and yourself. If you are not used to trusting the state of surrender, then you must train your body to even trust you, by which you need to listen to yourself, slow down, and adjust the pacing of your mind to the pacing of your inherent energetic pattern. And that comes only from choosing to restore harmony as the kind of core frequency that your higher self wants you to experience. To be in harmony is to be in harmony with not only yourself, but everything around you at the same time. It's to realize that to be present in life is to be perfectly in alignment with alignment itself. It's to flow into the natural flow of the stream of consciousness. It's to trust that everything that is already collapsing as a possibility outside of you is allowing you to access greater possibilities within yourself. But to feel into that, you need to shut down all of those parts of you that feel in conflict, that don't trust, that don't have faith, that are afraid, and that want to control a world that becomes perfectly aligned when you stop trying to control altogether. So your challenge is to cease the false games that you're playing with yourself that make surrender such a challenge. If you're trying to surrender by doing momentary activations of peace, by meditating, by drowning out your negative emotions, by doing something that soothes your nervous system and creates a momentarily self-regulated reaction within you, then you're really trying to neutralize the deeper patterns that are coming up to help you confront your own shadow. And when you allow yourself to surrender so deeply that you witness the activation of who you really are, based on the permission you give yourself to change and to make choices that align you with a more powerful, courageous, and self-loving attitude, you free yourself from all those patterns that you previously found impossible to surrender because you thought you needed to uphold them. And when you can do that, you realize that surrender is not an exit ticket to bring you out of a pattern that has been dysfunctional, but it's actually that emergence of freedom that you grant yourself when you choose to look boldly into the eyes of truth and everything that has been preventing your state of flow in life, by realizing you have been the intermediary all along. You are the impediment to surrender, and you are the source of divine surrender based on your ability to either create flow or to create all of the interference that hijacks the openness in your field and prevents you from being in the divine feminine state of allowing receptivity and true love. When you can bring yourself the joy of allowing yourself to acknowledge what it takes to consistently surrender to the truth of what you feel, you allow yourself to enter a whole new world, which is redefined by that constant commitment that you have to what you know is the right thing to do, activating the moral code that you know you can surrender to, because it marks the inception of a path of virtue, integrity, and the highest alignment that you are consistently testing yourself on your ability to surrender to.